Boom, shakalaka.
What up, Mike?
What up? All right. Yeah, I'm still getting used to using the computer, using different devices for this. But it seems to be working out pretty well. You ready for the FitQuest update? And we want to talk a little bit about health through an evolutionary lens today, right?
All right.
But we didn't say who's going to do FitQuest first. We never say that beforehand, honestly. Like used to do like rock, paper, scissors or something.
I don't have much in my FitQuest.
Okay.
So why don't I knock it out real quick?
Okay, knock it out. Go.
So my FitQuest, so it's been the same as it's been the past few weeks. So I went through last week. I talked about my back hurt, getting a little back tweak, but that's been pretty good. I've been doing yoga, pull-ups, push-ups, and some arm stuff with dumbbells.
For me,
pretty
much work a little bit in here.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing because it puts like zero pressure on my back. Well,
like, do you ever watch the Hans and Franz SNL? No, it's a good school.
Yeah,
it's a great.
Hysterical.
Hans meet the bathroom, and then he flexes and points at the bathroom. Because I think you stop way. Well, it's great.
Yeah, man, it's been so long since I watched that stuff. I used to crack up though at those guys because they wore those big, like fluffy costumes, right?
Yeah.
It's about to be Halloween. I mean, I'm sure we could find some of those somewhere.
That would be great. I might have to bring that back. Yeah, that's a fun one. It's fun wearing like a muscle suit too. You feel like you're muscular, even when you're not that muscular. At least I do.
Right. So you go back 10 years once you put on the suit.
Man, I used to wear a little He-Man muscles outfit. I had a He-Man costume. I freaking loved wearing that even when it was not costume time, which was probably a sign of like where I was going later in life.
Have you seen?
I remember just walking around the house, basically.
Dude, my little kid, he's 4 and he's wearing his Hulk uniform.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's the same as the old He-Man.
Yes. That's perfect.
But have you seen Masters of the Universe on Netflix?
Yeah, that was pretty good. I liked it. Did you like it?
Yeah, there's 2 mini cartoon series. They're each like 4 episodes. And they're awesome, man. I think Kevin Smith produced them.
Yes. Yeah. He did great.
Yeah, those were a lot of fun. And I just noticed on Amazon that the old He-Man, from 1987 is on there. And that would be perfect to watch, I think.
I'm a little scared to watch it. Even the new one was a little bit campy and the storyline was a little bit, what's the word? What's the opposite of, it was lacking depth. It felt, but it was fun.
Right.
Like you said, it was a lot of fun. Yeah. I wonder if I'll feel the same with the other one. I don't want to kill my nostalgia too much. I haven't watched Ninja Turtles for the same reason. I want to watch the Ninja Turtles cartoon and then I haven't done it. And then golf. Right. Oh, sorry. Back to your FitQuest. And then golf. You've been golfing a little bit and you can do an okay.
Yep. Yeah. It's been getting cold out here. And the thing with golf too is, right now it's dark at 6 o'clock. And so you can't really play you can't play in the afternoon anymore. So that gets pretty tough. But yeah, I've been playing okay. Nothing crazy. Just a bogey golfer right now. But
it's not bothering you much, right?
Back's not bothering me. And I just love the grind of practicing and getting out there and playing. It really keeps my body loose just as much as my mind going forward, even though it's basically, I've been standing at the same place for the past 4 years and going forward an inch and then moving back an inch and then going forward an inch. So, I'll get the occasional, and this is a little interesting. Okay. I'll get the occasional jump. I've only gotten 1 jump in the past 4 years, but I feel like that's kind of what happens. You get this mega, what you're doing now, but you don't understand it. So I've only had 1 of those. And it's similar to one of those leaps in kids, when they're super young.
Yeah.
You're just a new thing.
Yep.
But
I've
But
been
that's
all
pretty much
sometimes Ari will leap now, and I'm not used to him leaping off of things now. He's gotten
oh my
into this idea of jumping off of things, whereas before he would lower himself down quickly.
yeah.
Now he's starting to jump off. Well, it's a
How's he
little scary.
landing?
He's landing pretty good most of the time. I'm always grateful that kids are very rubbery, I would say, because if I saw my clients land like my kids land sometimes, I would just be like scared as all get out throughout our training sessions.
Right.
The
Right. Oh
kids,
yeah.
like, I'll see their ankles just fold. I'll see their knee turn in. I'll see their spine twist, you know,
Right.
but they have the mobility to like let their body just crumble into a fall.
And did you know kids have 300 bones, and by the time you get older, like I think it's 30 years old, you have 220 bones.
Right.
And so over that time period, your bones fuse together. And so you will tend to break them more when you're older. They're just for the fact that there's not like a million. There's still a ton in your hands, but there's not as much as there were, or in your ankles or all that.
Thank goodness for that. And it sucks that I don't have that anymore. But I don't think I would have dad strength if I had that anymore either. So you got to take what you get, right?
I like it. So we just went to Great Country Farms over
I
the
love
weekend.
Great Country Farms, by the way.
Yeah. And so Great Country Farms is basically a pumpkin patch, but it has a million different things. And it has this amazing kids area, and they have an obstacle course. And my 4-year-old and 7-year-old did the obstacle course, a pretty legit like Ninja Warrior course.
That's the wooden one with all the ropes and like the little beams you got to walk over and the big like wood posts that you got to balance on from one to the next, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that was really fun to watch. My 4-year-old, I mean, some of them were a little tough for him, but my 7-year-old was doing awesome, and it was fun. It was really fun to watch because you could see some of like the 10 and 11-year-olds like doing the swings with the wooden pallet on the bottom. And then my little daughter was like, just like a little ninja, just like nice and smooth. And so that was really cool to watch. And she was very confident. So that was awesome.
Dude, I think like when I get a lot older, I think I'm going to be like an advocate for children's and senior strength more than I am for like middle of the like the people who can afford it right now versus the people who can't as much.
Sure.
I think, but I think it's so important that kids get exposed early to like quality movement patterns, you know, and that I don't think that sounds too crazy, but I think it's really hard to do for most people now, right? Like expose it to normal quality movement, because most of the movement that it's mostly like observation, right? And you're going to observe what's around you. And if all that you've got around you is steady movement, then you're going to monkey see, monkey do.
Sure. Absolutely. I wonder if you could create like a 5-step outdoor obstacle course that could teach each one of these like developmental movements.
Oh yeah, dude.
To children. Yeah, like a game.
I'm really excited that my wife is not a fan of how forest school is being administered right now.
Okay.
It's a weird excitement to have, but I know when she's like this, she won't listen to the senior, so it doesn't matter. But I know when she's like this, she'll end up taking charge, basically. So if we do forest school again next season, she's going to take charge and organize all that kind of stuff. And she'll totally do something like that for sure. And then I'll have a flyer and a PDF and all that kind of stuff ready to go. That's in the works. I'm almost positive. Yeah.
Ooh.
Because we talked about stuff like that. And it's so easy too, especially with something like forest school where kids are going out into the woods somewhere, because most of the stuff that you would create in like your yard, if you have trees or branches or anything like that, you can set it up. You can go find trees or branches or something like that, unless you're in a desert area like Arizona. Sorry to my Arizona listeners.
I have no trees in my yard, by the way.
You got trees nearby, though. You can find tree pieces nearby.
That's
right?
true.
You could open up your
Yeah,
trunk and go drive somewhere very close nearby and pick up some tree pieces.
sure, sure.
Like most people can do that even if they don't have trees in the yard or something, right? Like
Right.
you can find some tree pieces and you can make balance beam, or you can find like a piece of a log and put something on it. You can balance on top of that, or you can lift up the log. I know people when I was living in Colorado, they were doing things like getting old tires and
Yeah,
using for strength equipment and
right.
backyard, like outdoor strength equipment. So you can drag tires with a chain, you can push tires on the sled. You could push a car, you can honestly, on the road,
Right.
depending on the sled. But I should get to my big quest. Is that most of your thing?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Nothing else today with my FitQuest. Just feeling pretty good. I do want
And
to. I do want to step it up a little bit. So I'm just trying to figure out because the last time I stepped it up is when I tweaked my back a little bit, and so I'm just trying to figure out which movements I think do that. And for me, I think it's generally the hinge and like a lower squat. And so I'm just trying to come up with ideas for like a good push and a good lower pull movement to test out.
oh,
Cause anytime I put weight even on a glute bridge or like a hip thruster, it it seems to just put too much pressure in this like region of my lower left area.
yeah.
And I can do glute bridges. I can do basically body weight stuff. Um, and maybe like some lightweight stuff, but maybe if you wanted to brainstorm a couple exercises real quick.
I was thinking of single leg glute bridge,
Okay. Okay.
single leg
I
glute
like
bridge.
that.
I feel like that last inch or two is usually hard for everybody, especially if you
Yeah.
get the hip tuck and the lower core engagement, and that's body weight. So you can
Right.
walk with pretty simply without messing with things. And then a
How do you,
split stance deadlift or kickstand deadlift.
yeah. Yeah.
I like that a
That's
lot.
usually that's my go-to hinge. But I was wondering if I get a lot of that lower pull in yoga. Like if I'm doing yoga 6 days a week,
Right.
I wonder if I do get a lot of that because that was the movement that I did last time I was working out. But that's like my favorite low impact, RDL or whatever is that we're
Staying.
using the kickstand. And so, and that was kickstand with just the weights on my side, like not in rack position or not in goblet position, but just on the side. And which is the safest, right? Unless you have any other recommendations.
I was thinking for you, I would lean more towards goblet position
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's less total weight, but it's harder on your core. So it'll
Okay.
pull you into using your core more.
Sure.
I
Sure.
also love like chest supported hinges. You've seen
Mhm.
those? Where you,
Yeah. Sure.
like a goblet position, but you're pulling it into your chest and then you do the hinge.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
ball. I really like those too. For that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. Cool. I will give it a try.
I
Coach Mike.
try them out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Split stance is one of my go-tos for sure. I've been trying to do more rear foot elevated again recently. Well, I fucking hate they're so hard.
Yeah.
So good. Okay.
I've been getting into that position kind of as like a hip flexor stretch.
Or couch
Um,
check kind of style.
yeah, pretty much like every day. And so I'll do like one or two rear foot elevated split squats, like
Dude,
while
that
like
sounds
when
like
I'm
the thing that
down.
would help your back the most, honestly. You do that like most days of the week.
I've been
Stretching out
doing it a lot.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. Like I've had golfers come to me with lower back pain and I've given them that one and they immediately feel better.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
And
You
like
know,
that little front hip flexor quadricep area, I imagine probably gets tight when you're walking around a lot and then you're twisting through it quickly.
sure. I use it so much, it's tough, it's not like I haven't stretched my hip flexor before,
Right.
and
Well,
so
would
I
you
think it's
do it
just
a lot and often basically for it to do much for you? It's weird because the stronger you get, the more you have to do your maintenance work. I think.
yeah. Yep. It's always the more you press one way, you
Well,
got to make sure the energy, you're like kind of centering it. So,
yeah, and you're trying to get better with things, so you're going to have to push in both directions.
right, right. And if you're doing it for a long period of time, you have to make sure that you take that energy. You can't push all the time. You got to take it away sometimes. That's why we do these cycles of 6 to 12 weeks or whatever of all
7 to
this.
8 years or
7 to 8 years.
10,000-year cycles.
Right. Well, you've heard of people doing push-ups every day for 20 years and stuff like that without affecting them. But
Right.
you hear of other people doing that and they hurt themselves after a couple of weeks. So, the human body is weird. I think each person has to test themselves and kind of test where you can go. And then just from there, that's where you have to figure it out yourself. So that's why we always talk about self-experimentation, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
All right. I think I'm done with my FitQuest. Go ahead.
Last week it's actually been 2 weeks since we met. Last week was like a very slow week. I only got one workout in. I barely walked much. I think in retrospect, and it sounds like an excuse, it could be an excuse, but I think in retrospect, I might have been like fighting something off because my energy level felt really low, basically.
Yeah.
And people around us have gotten sick with colds recently, and Zena's had the sniffles a good bit recently and all that other stuff. So I think I was probably fighting something off last week. And then 2 weeks ago. And then the most recent week, I got back into it just because I was feeling like that energy was low still. But that's basically worked on getting my lower intensity work in, like getting my total steps in, getting walks in, getting stretching in, easing back into it. And I felt pretty good and I'm feeling better this week. So everything seems to be going in the right direction now. And I also got some new supplements, which I was running low on. What? Yeah, creatine topped off on the creatine right now.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So I
was thinking about going through a creatine phase.
What's that?
I was thinking about going through a creatine phase through the winter time, depending on my lifting. But go ahead, finish.
I'm on creatine like 99% of the time, I would say, because I definitely notice like an endurance difference, especially on busy days with the kids. I'm running around a lot with the kids. Like creatine makes a big difference. And I was out of creatine for like over a week, basically. So that could have been part of my lower energy feeling as well. There was a whole bunch of things though. It was weird. There was a whole bunch of things. There was that. There was kids feeling sick. There was, my stomach was feeling weird. We didn't have our normal foods. Didn't work on a grocery store. Didn't have my normal supplements because Amazon was being weird. Just
man, lots of excuses. No, I'm just kidding. I think, like you said, no, but I think the sickness thing is so you can't oftentimes tell when you're just like going to work and coming home, but when you go into a workout and you start pushing yourself a little bit and you feel those energy levels lower and your kid or your wife has been sick or whatever in the past like week, like your body is probably fighting it kind of like underneath a little bit. And you don't really realize it too much, like maybe like until you push yourself. And then that's when you can really tell. So I like having my workouts, even a check-in every day, just to kind of see those kind of things.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that one workout and I was like, oh man, this feels hard to push into. And then I started another day. I was trying to do my second workout of the week and I was just doing my warm up and I was like, I'm good. I'm just going to do some extra foam rolling, some other extra stuff, chill. Maybe go for a walk. There's good.
Good, man. I like that. You got to take care of your body.
Yeah. And now I feel great when I'm ready to go. And I'm like, and I have a little bit of craving to train right now versus 2 weeks ago, the craving was completely gone. So it was just, I think the lesson in that is just to listen to your body, but also get back, have the goal of getting back on the horse soon. You got to hold both of those things,
Yeah. Yep. All right. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else in your FitQuest?
Huh?
Okay. That's FitQuest.
That's pretty much it. I'm training twice a week, full body, walking 7 to 11,000 steps a day. Oh, I haven't been getting on my bike as much. I might get on my bike a little bit more still. But we've been running around a lot, getting ready for the Halloween party, which I'll see you in a few days, I believe.
Yeah. Sweet.
So I've been running around doing that and picking things up and putting them down, doing that a lot. So this week will probably be on the lighter side, probably 2 instead of 3 workouts this week. And then a lot of steps, a lot of picking things up and putting them down prior to Halloween.
That's a good time, man. Sweet.
So you want to talk a little bit about those questions you have about let's see, I want to zoom back to what we were talking about earlier. This is something we were talking about in our chat.
Yeah. So I have them kind of written down here. And so you want to examine health from an evolutionary lens, and you gave like 6 different kind of topics. And
yes.
So I have those topics written down and just like a couple little questions. All right.
Okay.
So we're doing it a little bit differently. All right. First thing, hunter-gatherer brain stimulation. Okay. So you want to talk about that from an evolutionary lens. How do you think our modern environment affects the natural ways our brains were stimulated as hunter-gatherers? And then like what else? So you just go ahead and kind of say what you want to say, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So the reason I want to talk about this a little bit is because I think it helps to have this lens when you're trying to improve your health. Just understanding what like the default human inputs are, for your body and for your system. If we were going and we went to an alien planet and they had evolved ape on their planet and we were just observing them, and they weren't like civilizational just yet. They were hunter-gatherer, for example. But they're not on Earth. So the default inputs are that your brain expects. And some of them we get in our modern life and some of them we don't get in our modern life. That give you an idea of why I was thinking of it?
Sure. Now, but let's do an
example.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Some of the things that we would get then that we maybe don't get as much now would be a moving through territories type of feeling where we're going to different settings, for example, and we have more of a nomadic lifestyle. And I think this is one of the reasons why people enjoy traveling. Like traveling is a big deal. If I just said all of a sudden, no, traveling's bad for you, you should stop doing it, you'd be like, no, traveling's good for me, shut up. Right?
Probably. I think the modern parts of traveling are the things that people don't like as in the traffic, commuting, and things like that. But when somebody actually gets to their location, that's, I think everyone usually likes that unless other modern things messes it up. Like their bank account, they lose their credit card or, their tire goes flat or something like that.
And a lot of times they're in an environment maybe that's so starkly different than their current environment that adapting to it puts a stress on their system because our bodies are not meant to go from one dramatically different climate to another dramatically different climate, for example. Meant is a strong word. I don't really mean meant in terms of.
It's just adapted over time to that and its current status.
Exactly. Your brain is going to feel like it needs to catch up if you go from one drastically different environment to another drastically different environment. But if you go from one environment to a little bit different, and then you go to a little bit different, and then you go to a little bit different, you can adapt over time to that. One of the things people do, an example of this is they'll do sporting events in other countries where they're far away from their home country, and they'll go to that other country a couple weeks ahead of time to adapt their body to that environment and their brain and everything that goes with it. I think that's good for your brain to see those different areas and perspectives and environments. And it's hard to completely explain it without going too far in depth. But I would say travel is a big one. There's a
Okay.
reason why we enjoy travel, and it's because our brain kind of craves it in a way.
Yeah.
But then we go health wise, we travel in a way, in a modern way that can really mess with our health. For example, if we're not aware that we got to plan to adapt to this, because if we just try and adapt to it in our natural status, it's not going to happen maybe in a time frame that we would like. Well, we got to go somewhere way earlier to actually adapt before the event, like a sporting event, for example.
Okay. Okay. All right. I mean, that's a good theory. I like it. I mean, so pretty much, if there's something that when we were hunter gatherers that a modern technology is intervening with whatever it would have been back then, just know that modern intervention might have, ramifications to your natural well-being. And then you just need to be aware of that, basically.
Exactly. So that's the point of looking at things through an evolutionary lens.
Okay.
That makes sense. So I'll give you another example. And this is like the second category that we mentioned.
Spatial memory.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I think it was Socrates who lamented about how his students were losing their ability to memorize things as well because of how dependent they had become on writing things down. The tool of writing, he was not a big fan of when it was getting popular, because more and more people were writing and learning how to write.
Right.
More and more of his students were, but they weren't actually memorizing things as much.
And that was early.
Socrates' time, super early. Yeah. So that's an example of someone being mad at a technology as simple as writing for messing with our natural ability to remember things. And I like using that example when I talk about spatial memory, because they knew even way back then about our memory capacity. And they probably knew even more back then about our memory capacity because we hadn't started using as much tools to what's the word? To put that memory load elsewhere, I guess.
Okay.
Or to delegate our memory needs to other technologies.
Right.
Well, when you look at memory research, though, one of the things you can do to improve your recall ability is to use things that rev up your spatial memory.
Okay.
An example of this is a memory palace.
Okay.
Well, you think of I'm going to get to the big point with the evolutionary side of this in a second. But the memory palace makes the most sense to me. So you think of a room, okay, or an environment that you're really familiar with, okay? Like super familiar. Like, that this thing is on this windowsill all the time. This thing is on your desk here all the time. This thing is there. Like, you can remember where everything is in the room, okay? And then what you can do is, if you're trying to remember a speech or something like that, you can assign different bullet points of that speech to different things in that room.
Okay.
And then you can visualize that room because and go through left to right the different bullet points that you've associated with the speech that you're trying to have.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. But how does that work? Why does it work?
Because you've looked at that thing over and over and over and over again, and it's imprinted into your mind, and that becomes like a part of your memory.
Why do we imprint environments into our minds so dramatically?
We imprint because, that's true. Because I guess we live there. We're using all of our environment uses almost all of our senses compared to other things. If we're just reading a book, you're usually just using a couple senses. But I think your environment, you need all your senses, and that kind of gives your memory the best feedback or best recall.
And Why does it do that? For example, survival, basically at the end of the
Survival.
lines,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're in an environment that you're trying to survive in and you're going to be in there for a while, a season, for example,
Mhm.
right? A few months before you move on to the next environment, you're going to have to learn all the little things about that environment, to help you
Mhm.
survive in that environment. And you're going to have to know how
Right.
to not get lost in that environment. You have to know a whole bunch of things that are going to load your memory, basically, for you to be able to survive. That's not something that they thought about as a load on their memory. That's just how they
Right.
function in an environment.
Well, just think of back then, it's just like going hiking or something, except now you don't have any apps or anything like that that you're also using, but you're literally just walking through the woods
Mhm.
or walking down a path that you might be creating, but that was your whole entire life. I don't know what time period we're
Well,
talking about,
aliens, that
but
was the aliens' whole entire life. The aliens that
oh
we're
yeah,
that we're looking at right now.
pretty much. Yeah, but I mean, that's your whole entire life. There's no technology. There's nothing there. So I think you notice more things like you noticed the sky and you noticed every tree and you noticed the mountains were there and you noticed the bushes were there. And over a time period, that really became one of the most important things for us. I think that was like a big adaptation for us. And I think the spatial memory, I think that's kind of cool. Now, why is this related to
To health.
today? To
Okay,
health.
so another issue we have with health nowadays is people's ability to focus and late stage brain degradation, basically.
Okay.
And a lot of the things they talk about with late stage brain degradation is different ways to strength train the brain, basically. In so many words, like how to train the brain or
Right.
activities that will help the brain stay plastic or yeah, like able to grow still and not become
Yeah.
not deteriorate as much or to slow down the deterioration of the brain.
Okay.
So what you can do is you can tap into a lot of these things that maybe we're not really tapping into nowadays because of our modern environment. And those things can really help people. They do it in rehab environments. For example, they work on spatial memory, rehab or
Right.
brain health people and with dementia settings even they work on it because it seems like having a good spatial memory, almost creates an architecture for your processor to work through, if that makes sense. I'll put it in computer terms a little bit,
Sure.
you
Sure.
know? And if you don't have a lot of spatial memory, you don't have a big hard drive in a way. You have a small hard drive.
Well, there's nowhere for your thoughts to go, you know.
It
I mean,
doesn't, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like when I read up on it. And so I think that's something that's really useful for your health, honestly, and something that gives us a clue into like how our brains work. We want to go circadian clock.
sure, let's do it. How has artificial lighting and modern lifestyles altered our natural circadian rhythms?
Okay. I'm gonna let
And
you
what else were you going to talk about in regards to that?
in addition to circadian clock, how our modern lifestyle and exposure to light. Is that what you said?
Pretty much, because that's the main thing that's affecting it, right?
Yeah, I would say so. The circadian clock is mostly set by your light exposure.
Yeah.
And
Screens.
yep, screens are a big factor in your light exposure and I can't think of any good words today. But it affects people a lot because the light at the beginning of the day, the light at the end of the day, the light in the middle of the day, for your circadian clock to set itself in a healthy rhythm, it needs to be consistent and it
Mhm.
needs to be waxing and waning, if that makes sense.
Sure,
Versus
sure.
all day fluorescent, bright white light, like as soon as you wake up and right before you go to bed.
Right. I've for a long time, I have had lights that I can dim And I've almost always dimmed lights. Like as soon as night comes outside,
Yeah.
my lights are like really dim. And I've noticed, say, when I've had different jobs that I would be at work till late under fluorescent lights, that when you get home, even though you're super tired, it's still hard to go to sleep. And I think that there's other reasons, but like one thing I think would just be like just all the lights that you're under all day, or if you're in front of a computer for so long,
Right.
that really affects it.
Oh, I know another thing that's big with your circadian clock. And this is relating it to the evolutionary lens a little bit more. Light exposure, I think people can understand how evolutionarily, if you look at that through that lens, like you wake with the sunrise, you go to sleep with the sunset kind of thing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And that's the light exposure part of it. But the other thing about your circadian clock is that it's programmed in a way. That's not the right word either, but it's programmed. It needs to be programmed in a way that it requires a certain amount of inputs. I think the number right now is like 5 to 10, average of 7, all the time, every time, in the same order for your sleep cycle to be the most effective.
And that's because it releases certain chemicals into your body at certain times of the day from that sunlight, depending on if it's early in the morning or in the middle of the day or at night. That helps you basically wake up and helps you fall asleep.
Exactly. And for a lot of people who have like really good sleep routines, so this is a bit of a sleep routine type thing that affects your circadian rhythm. For a lot of people that have good sleep routines, this isn't as much of an issue because they may not even notice it, but they probably go to the bathroom, brush their teeth, get in their pajamas, and do 3 or 4 other things in a row about the same each time, and probably don't look at a screen right before they go to bed to mess with their light exposure.
Right.
But the equivalent of that would be just a human in its natural environment, finishing the day's work, for example, whatever that may be, doing whatever they do to get the sleeping quarters ready, okay, which is probably a routine, right? The light's already taken care of. So that's another cue that the lights have gone down, for example, at the same time. And right as soon as those lights go down, they go and do the thing, right? And then they go to sleep. That's no big deal, right? But like our sleeping quarters are already set up. We don't have to walk back to home. We might have to drive back to home, for example, one day. So that might be part of it. But usually you don't go to sleep right after you get home in the evening, for example. So I don't know if that would be as much of it for the modern human. But if you think of what would be like a natural evolutionary sleep routine, it's usually about 5 to 10 things every time or most of the time, including that gradual light reduction, basically.
Okay.
And then you can use that to help you get better sleep. With not being.
You know what else works? Like a 3-year-old. Like that works, because then you just pass out.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Or you can just pass out from exhaustion, which is what most people are doing. Yeah. What? Most people are passing out from exhaustion. That's a whole other body.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, that was pretty good. We went through half the stuff that we wanted to go through. You want to say anything at the end here, or are we wrapped?
Pretty sure we're wrapped. Use some of those. Use that lens to help you maybe make some decisions about your health or to make some interventions. If you do make any interventions, doesn't have to be a big one, just has to be consistent. Actually try and make it as small as possible. Try and be consistent like we always talk about. And then I'm going to try and get I know I'm going to get my steps up this week in my FitQuest because it's Halloween time. What do you dress up at? Do you know yet?
I don't, man. I don't have a costume. I'm just going to be a dad. I'm just going to be a dad.
A dad? Okay. He's a fairy tale creature. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your fairy tale? What's your
the best dad ever shirt? That would be a fairy tale creature. I'm not trying to dish you. I'm just saying.
It's an impossible feat.
An impossible feat, exactly. I think I'm leaning towards gnome right now. I got a couple of pointy winter hats that I'm gonna put like coat inside of to make it nice and pointy. And then overalls, shirt, jeans. I might dye my beard white. I'm thinking about dyeing my beard white. We'll see if I can find some good beard dye.
Oh, that'd be fun. You should do that. All right. Sounds good, man.
Yep.
All right. All right. Well, I guess that's it then.
That's it. Thank you for listening, everybody. Happy
All right.
Halloween.
Later. Take it easy.